Good evening, everybody. It's your girl, Carol Maletta from the Parenting 411, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Welcome to another episode. And I've been looking forward to this because this is a very important topic. We're going to be talking about how you can create a vision with and for your family. And I say that it's a good topic to have because as parents, we're the leaders of the family, right? We make a lot of the decisions and we just pass it on down to the children. So it can be really very healthy and empowering to really allow your children to know a bit about the decisions you're making and where appropriate, have a voice, have a say. But also, it can be very powerful to just have everybody know what you're going for, what goals you want to achieve. You can hold each other accountable. You can be supportive of one another. You can understand how what you're doing can affect or help what someone else in your family is doing. And I really got to see this firsthand in 2020 because my family, everybody knows, I have two college-age sons who happened to be home during the holidays and for an extended period, of course, because of the pandemic. And so, whereas in previous years, my husband would have his goals and he and I would talk about that. I'd have my goals. And really, since my sons were in elementary school, we used to do goal setting every year, but it was never necessarily unified and where we were working together in the same room. And I have to tell you, for my family, 2020 was lit. It made a lot of difference that we all worked together at the same time, worked separately on our own vision boards, and then came back together and shared what we intended to do. And man, we knocked out everything. And I did a little bit more than what I had on my vision board. So this is powerful stuff. The person that I'm going to have on with me tonight knows all about it. He has years of experience in leadership and training and coaching at senior levels in business, in government. And he now is leading a program of vision boarding. He has something coming up for men. I hope that some of you saw where I posted it on my pages, and he's going to tell you more about that. I'm not going to get into all that, but allow me to welcome Kevin Wayne Johnson to the stage so we can just talk about this idea of creating a vision for yourself and for your family and living it out. So let's see here. Welcome, Kevin Wayne Johnson. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for the wonderful invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So why don't we go ahead and dive in and tell our viewers a bit about yourself, personal, professional. Just let them know who they're listening to this evening.
Okay. Well, I'm a product of Richmond, Virginia, and goes all the way back to great grandparents on both sides. One cousin and I escaped. And after I finished Virginia Commonwealth University, I migrated to the DMV, that's the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, to pursue a profession that was not really available for me back home in Richmond. And interestingly enough, that was well over 3 decades ago, and I'm still here. One of the main reasons I matriculated to the area from Richmond is to pursue a career with the federal government. So I was very fortunate to be a frontline leader, a mid-level leader, and a senior level leader over a 34-year career, and retired about 3.5 years ago. And I have a big smile on my face when I say that, because I love chapter 2 of my life, which is taking the time to pour now into the lives of the current and next generation of leaders. And that really brings us to our topic, parenting, because leadership, in my humble opinion, begins in the home. So I've been married for 28 years to the vivacious Gail Johnson. And from our union, we have 3 sons, and they're now 23, 24, and 25. So our children were all back to back, all boys. Yeah, absolutely. So I always tell people with a big smile that when my oldest son was 2, his baby brother was 1, and his baby brother was a newborn. So swallow that if you would. And but they kept us young, and I learned so much about leadership because even though they were raised in the same house with the same parents, they're all diametrically opposed in terms of their personality, how they handle things. I have an introvert, I have an extrovert, and we also have a special needs son. Our youngest son, who's now 23, at the age of 2, was diagnosed with autism. So he taught me a lot about servant leadership and serving him and being an advocate in the school system and in the neighborhood and in the social environments where he needed help and still needs help. So that's a little bit about me, and we'll probably share a little bit more as we continue on in the program.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And, we have a bit in common as well. My sons are twins, and, I like to say that they make a career out of being as different as they can be, always from, when in the womb, they were, they just were different, doing different things. So, but, they love each other and all of that. But I tell you, they really have different approaches at life, and I admire both of them. And I have experience with special education and all of that, and I've learned a lot through that. And honestly, it's their differences that really have caused me to slow down and really tap into some skills I didn't even know I had, or I should say maybe develop some skills I didn't know I had. And, I think that's God has a way of doing that. I read that before I had my children, that a lot of things that, he can't get through to us on comes out through our children, lessons that we can't learn. So tell us then a bit about why you've gone in this direction with the vision boards, and what does that look like when you're working with organizations or individuals?
Well, every one of us has personal and professional dreams, goals, and aspirations. There are some things in your personal life that you want to achieve, and there are some things in your professional life that you want to achieve. And what's overlooked by many people, not all, but what's overlooked by many people is that the two they cross-pollinate. I use that word. A lot of who we are, the core of who we are in our DNA, can be used to advance us both personally and professionally. So we should spend more time trying to make sure that those skills and those abilities and those knowledges and that wisdom works on both ends, as opposed to just trying it in your personal life or just trying it in your professional life, because it can work. Again, in the opening monologue, I've learned all about leadership in the home first, right? In my personal life. And then it was able to propel me and launch me into my professional life, even when I wear two hats, because my secular career was going on at the same time as my ministry work. I've been actively engaged in ministry leadership for 21 years as well. And I was able to manage both because I learned all about leadership in the home as well as in the workplace. So I think it's very important that we take that intellectual capital, that dream that we have, that blueprint in our mind that we can see, but we haven't obtained, and write it. It's actually scriptural in the book of Habakkuk. You'll see in chapter 2 and verse number 2, write the vision and make it plain. Having something in writing that you and I can go back to and look at and jog a memory or keep us focused is very, very important. So above and beyond the intellectual capital, let's now put it down in writing. In essence, that's what the vision board is. We're putting in writing the vision that we have for our lives. I'll give you a quick example. My mission statement is relatively simple, but it does take up a full page, a full 8.5 by 11 page. But when you narrow it all down, I have the same disc behavioral profile is one of my favorite Americans of all time, and that's the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Him and
Mm-hmm.
I have the same DISC behavioral profile.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more of a steady, compliant type of person in lieu of someone who's very outgoing or dominant. That's just my style. And
Mm-hmm.
so, staying true to my style, I'm able to sort of dream and visualize how I serve other people to make the world a much better place. And that
Mm-hmm.
word serve needs to be broken down. And so we break it down by way of a vision board. We use pictures, we use illustrations, we use words to make the dream become a reality so that we'll have something to move toward in terms of the desired outcome. And that's a high level summary of what a vision board is. But it
Mm-hmm.
really, again, it takes it from the mind and it
Mm-hmm.
puts it on paper, something that we can see. And I keep my vision board prominently displayed in our living room. So even when
Mm-hmm.
I'm relaxing and, watching Family Feud or Judge Judy or basketball or whatever it is I'm watching,
Right.
I glimpse over at the vision board to kind of remind me to stay true to your goals, dreams, and aspirations because I'm here to serve others, but not just to serve them, but for the purpose of making the world a much better place. And it started in my home with training my sons to be good husbands, to be good fathers, and to be good Johnson men.
Right, right. I just want to give a shout out to, let's see, Joyce Spears Smith. She's saying this is good information, and like she agrees, write the vision and make it plain. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, she's also asking if you were talking about the DISC behavioral profiles, and you were, right? DIS.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, it's important. Not to get too far off topic, but part of being self-aware,
Mm-hmm.
knowing self, so that we can be in a position to lead others and to serve others. These assessments that are available, whether it's Myers-Briggs for personality, the DISC for behavior, the leadership assessment for our leadership style, conflict management style. The more we take the time out to understand ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
the more focused we can be on that life mission and on accomplishing it and getting closer and closer to that desired outcome. So in addition to the vision boarding, in addition to the leadership training, in addition to the coaching, we also walk people through the importance of the assessments, especially the self assessments when you assess yourself, because we all have blind spots. So it's important
Mm-hmm.
that we see who we think we are, and
Mm-hmm.
then having the thick skin that's needed to have others assess us so that
Mm-hmm.
we can be aware of the blind spots that we have. So yeah, the answer to the question is yes. I was referring to the DISC, the behavioral analysis, because it really
Mm-hmm.
kind of helps us to understand, how we roll,
Mm-hmm.
how do we flow in
Mm-hmm.
this journey called life, and it answers questions in terms of who we can work best with, and perhaps some of those folks we need to avoid. Right? It's not a
Right.
personal thing, but it's like some people we just don't work well with, and we want to avoid it becoming a personal thing. So the more we know
Right.
up front, the better we are. And all of that can be articulated and documented as a part of the vision boarding that we do.
Absolutely. And you said so much that that I want to comment on. Like, what one thing that really came through though is the importance of self-awareness. And I think that there's a lot we can do at home with our children to plant those seeds of self-awareness. Because, to be honest, there's some things that when you think about kind of old school parenting or traditional parenting, where we have the perspective that children are seen and not heard. Their job is just to play, do well in school, but we don't want to hear too much about the feelings because what do you have to worry about? Mom and dad are working, putting a roof over your head, doing all that. What do you have to think about or feel? We'll tell you what to think and do and whatever. That's kind of old school. but we'll often talk them out of their feelings, like, like, why are you upset about that? If they have a conflict with their friends, or they don't get picked for a team, or they don't get invited to a birthday party, we're like, that's okay, you don't need them. Well, that's not how they feel in the moment. So, like, allow them to sit with their feelings, learn how to name their feelings and recognize them for when they're in similar situations in the future. But allow them to own their feelings, and then also give them a voice. I think the dinner table is a wonderful a wonderful forum for expressing your views. I mean, I'm really thankful that, my husband traveled a lot, certainly worked very hard, but somehow, aside from when he was traveling out of, state or what have you, or out of the country, he was home. We were able to have dinner together many nights a week and had great conversations, about current affairs or whatever other things that might have interested them personally. And, those are the kinds of things that really teach them that they have a right to feel a certain way, they have a right to think a certain way, and they learn a constructive way to express that. So those are all valuable leadership skills, personal leadership skills, first of all, because you need to learn how to lead yourself before you go out and try to bring people with you on board to your vision. So that's, I just wanted to say that reminds me a lot. And I talk to parents a lot about that, to give their children agency, when they're at home, especially, age in an age appropriate way and all of that. But those are the beginnings of it. You can't decide, well, you're 15, so now start making your own decisions or whatever. And you've got to teach them things, just like other life skills that you have to teach them about taking care of themselves, taking care of their belongings, all of that. Leadership, you got to teach it. So I'm sure that you've certainly experienced that with your 3 boys.
Yeah, well, very well said. It's very little I can add to that. I'm a firm believer that this all starts at home. You and I model the behavior that we want them to see and emulate. And, I'm very fortunate and I'm very blessed that my dad modeled that for me as a U.S. Marine. I saw him be very, very rigid and tough on the recruits when he was a drill sergeant. I was a young fella, but then I would also see this same man come home and be kind and gentle and empathetic and compassionate with his 2 sons, right? And he was teaching me that, he modified his behavior depending on the environment that he was in, but in both environments, he was very, very effective. And, we sometimes still talk about it. He's 84. And we sometimes still talk about that. It had a huge impact on me. And it's always been my prayer that my sons would have that conversation with their children about how I poured into their lives. That's always my prayer. So I was very careful, very deliberate, and very intentional in terms of how I raised them just to be good men. I mean, that's where it starts. And so in the workplace, the question is, are we the model leader that we want those under our leadership to model? Because at some point we've got to pass the baton and somebody else is going to take the reign and run with it. And we want them to model the behavior that we were able to show, because it is effective. It does work. Compassion and empathy does work when mixed up properly with the acumen and the intelligence. It does work. Every now and again, somebody will come along and they'll mistake your kindness as a weakness. But those are the people that I would take behind closed doors, just me and them. And I would remind them there's nothing weak about me. I just believe in treating people the way I want to be treated. So don't let that happen again. And that would usually fix that.
So now I'm curious, when you're, like, for example, in the upcoming event that you have, and why don't you tell our viewers the date and the website where they can sign up for that too. We don't want them to miss that.
Yeah, it's out there on Eventbrite, but we're proposing 2 vision board sessions for men. It's just for men,
Mm-hmm.
90 minutes each. And session number 1 will be this coming Saturday, June the 12th, at 12:30, and then we'll end at 2 o'clock sharp. And then the second one will be on Sunday, the last Sunday of the month, the 27th. Again, 90 minutes, 12:30 to 2 for men only. You don't have to register for both, just register just for one. And
Mm-hmm.
it's simply entitled Vision Boarding for Men. You can find it right there on Eventbrite. But we're going to be walking men for a 90-minute session through this whole process of having this dream and this goal and this aspiration and what it means and why it's significant, and then having them take it from the mind and putting it on a board. Now, the board can be, it's cardboard. It can be any
Mm-hmm.
size that you want, but
Mm-hmm.
generally speaking, it's probably about maybe a 12 by 18
Mm-hmm.
ish size. And that
Mm-hmm.
gives you plenty of room for illustrations, pictures. You can articulate your thoughts in writing, etc. And it's
Mm-hmm.
something that the men, when we're done, would be a keepsake, something that you can always look toward. So it's a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's an opportunity to really think and give some forethought in terms of what that goal might be, what the
Mm-hmm.
desired outcome is, and then the
Mm-hmm.
steps and the processes in the middle that are needed to take in order to get there. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a quick executive summary of what the vision boarding is all about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that piece is very important, the steps that it takes to get there, because
Mhm.
we have these goals, and uh, but sometimes now, especially with vision boarding and all of that, people talk about it a little bit more. But it used to be, oh, your goals, put them up there, but nobody ever talked about that little bit that you need to do every day
Yeah.
to make that happen. And that's something that I incorporated when I did goal setting with my sons. And, even though they were young, I had them thinking in 5 different areas. So it was, academic, spiritual, financial, even though they were younger. And let's see, community and athletics.
Mhm.
So they could be physically active. And so, yeah, but in addition, they were very, very easy. It was very easy for them to talk about, oh yeah, I want to play AAU basketball, or hey, I want to make the football team, or whatever it is. Okay, so now what are you going to do to get there? And
Mhm.
so that's something that's a seed we planted. I hope they continue with it. But yeah, that piece of it is really, really, really important. And now, do you have? Now, I noticed you have the vision boarding for men.
Mhm.
Do you have other audiences? Like, do you ever do it where it's vision boarding for dads, or vision boarding for um, women, moms, or families, maybe even? And that would be fun. I think that could be interesting.
Yeah, it would be, and you're giving me some really good ideas. Last week, over in Davidsonville, Maryland,
Hmm.
we did a joint vision boarding session where, even though I was the only guy actually demonstrating how to do a vision board, we did have men in the audience,
Hmm.
and then there were 3 other ladies as well, and we walked them through the entire vision boarding process. There were 4 of us, and there were
Hmm.
people there live, and then there were also people online as well. And we had a pretty big audience, so that was a mixed audience. But I like your themes in terms of doing it for families, maybe
Yeah.
doing it for moms, for dads. I like that theme. We have not done that yet, but you're definitely giving me some good ideas. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah.
I think the family one could be fun because
Yeah.
it worked, because there was definitely kind of grumble because here comes mom with one of these, you know, these ideas, when we could be watching Netflix or whatever. But once everybody started doing it, I think they got into it, and then, like I said, we killed it. I mean, the goals, because it was, that particular one, because we didn't do it in 2021. We didn't do it together. Let me say it like that. What? What are you laughing about?
Well, you just described me. I go to these different events. I'm fussing all the way there. Oh man, here we go again. Blah, blah. And then I get there and I have a blast. And I can't
Oh,
wait and I can't wait to do it again. And
oh,
my sons do the same thing to my wife. They're kicking and
yeah,
screaming, "Oh, mom!" And then they get there and they love it. They don't want to leave. So
exactly.
that's why I was laughing.
Oh, yeah, but yeah. So that was great, and I still have the last one we did together. We put it on our bedroom wall, my husband and I, and we had some work done last week or something like that, and one of the repairman was like, "Wow, I really like that. I really like that vision board you all put together." And did you do? I was like, "Yeah, we did everything we said we were going to do." He's
Right.
like, "Wow!" And then of course, we had something on there about our former president, getting him out of there. And he's like, "And you even did that?" I was like, "We sure did." So
And it worked.
yeah, yeah. See, vision boarding does work.
Yeah.
So 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 anyway, yeah. So well, I hope to see you. I hope to see that you are expanding it to some of those other groups, and I definitely think young fathers. That would be ideal because some of them, depending on maybe their background, and I mean, of course, this could be mothers as well, but just depending on how they grew up, they may not have a blueprint, and they really, really want to do the right thing. And I'm reminded of the other night, uh, President Barack Obama's interview on CNN, and he had kind of had that round table discussion with the young men, and some of them, I don't know if they were all fathers. I kind of came in late on it, but they were just they were young men that really want to do the best for their families, for themselves, and they just are looking for guidance. So I think that could be amazing.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you so much for dropping those nuggets. I appreciate that.
Great, great. So what else, what's next for you as far as what you're doing, whether with vision boarding or your other work? Because I know you're involved in a lot of things. So what else do you have coming up?
Yeah, there is a lot going on, but my laser focus at this juncture in my life is really pouring into the current and next generation of leaders. So I'm very, very actively engaged with leadership development training and also executive coaching. The two go really hand in hand, helping frontline, mid-level, and senior level leaders across a number of different venues
Mm-hmm,
to be the best that they can be, men and women, to really tap
mm-hmm,
into their potential. Oftentimes, people just kind of need a jolt and need some inspiration and some motivation to move forward and that goal and dream that they have. So we do quite a bit of that. That's really the main bread and butter. The vision boarding is an extension of that because
mm-hmm.
again, we're helping people to achieve their goals, which is part of helping them to be self-aware so that they can move out and they can move forward. So whether it's the city, state, or federal government, academic institutions, because we do a lot of work with Prince George's Community College, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a nonprofit organization, local churches and faith-based organizations, and even small to medium-sized corporations. We work with all of those different levels of the workforce across those different venues. And you kind of know when you're in the right space, doing the right thing, and you're in your lane, because it's so fulfilling. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it doesn't really feel like work. It's very fulfilling. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited about what has happened, what is happening, and now that we're starting to reopen, what's to come. Because I do believe for the next probably 2 to 3 years, maybe longer, we'll be in a hybrid situation. We'll be in a situation where some people don't mind going back to the office. They want to get out the house. They want to see people. They want to embrace. They want to give a fist pump. In some cases, a hug and a handshake. And then other people are saying, you know what? I am super productive right here at home. I want to stay here, and you can't make me come back to the office. And so a lot of employers probably won't put up the fight because they don't want to deal with the litigation. And they'll probably rewrite some human resource policy to say, listen, it's not mandatory, but we highly recommend it. And in other words, if you choose not to come back to the office, it's not really a whole lot we can do about it. We'll accommodate you from right where you are. So I think we'll be in a hybrid situation for at least another 2 or 3 years. And so my company is prepared for that so that we can deliver our services either way. I prefer in person. I just personally believe it's just much more effective, but we meet the customer where they are, and that's what it's all about.
Yes, and I absolutely think that a lot of events and platforms are going to be hybrid going forward as well to accommodate those people that just like to experience events
Mhm.
in person and connect, and then those others that want to be online. And there's going to probably be a price differential for them. So then what that means is that more people can experience things. Like whereas before they're like, hey, I can't afford to go to this particular conference, I got to travel or whatever. And now for a lower price, they can see it virtually. So I think that's going to be
Yep.
pretty exciting as
Yep.
well.
Absolutely. I think a lot of companies and organizations will find, if they haven't already found, that they can reach more people.
Yes.
Now, for the for-profit companies, they're going to get together in the boardroom to say, how can we make this work for us financially? And
Of course.
and you hit it right on the head. So for those that want to show up in person, this will be the price. And for
Hmm.
those of you that want to come in virtually, this will be the price.
Hmm.
Uh, but they'll be able to address both audiences and be able to still earn the revenue they need to cover their expenses. So that's the way that I see it for the next probably 2 to 4 years, and then after
Hmm.
that, we'll kind of see what happens.
Right, right. So, in closing, do you have, let me just see here what else I'm hearing. Yeah. Oh, I guess when you were talking about your father, she was talking about how fortunate you were to have a dad
Hmm.
like that. Yeah. Um,
Yeah. And the reason I mention him a lot, in
mhm.
these type of sessions, let me just give you a real quick story before we close. And this was the
No
difference
problem. Yeah,
maker.
take your
And
time. Take your
yeah,
time.
this was the difference maker. So my dad always told me from the time I was a little boy, he said, Kevin, the worst thing you can do is to get in trouble with the law,
Mhm.
because it's a system that once you get in, you're not going to be able to get out. It will follow you for a lifetime. Now, I'm much too young to understand what dad meant, but
Mhm.
because I love my dad and I know he loved me, I just had a great deal of respect for him. And he told me, he said, son, if you do get in trouble with the law, don't call me. I'm not coming to help you.
Mm,
And that
mhm.
rattled me, right? It
Mm.
actually scared me. And that
Okay.
and that was his intent. That was his intent.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
as a junior in high school, I
Mhm.
found myself hanging out with some knuckleheads,
Okay.
and the leader of the pack decided that he was going to be big enough and bold enough to do something to cause the police to come. And when the police came, sure enough, he got arrested, and the other folks that chose to follow him got arrested. And I remember them looking back at me and saying, Kevin, what you going to do? And
Mm.
I remained stationary right where I was, because my dad told me that if I get in trouble with the law, there would be consequences that would last a lifetime, and he wouldn't come get me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I didn't have a father in my life, I would have
Mm-hmm.
followed them, because as a 16-year-old, peer pressure is the most important thing in a 16-year-old's life.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have wanted to maintain that friendship, or what I thought was friendship.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so glad that I didn't go, and I didn't have to deal with all of the ramifications that come with having a police record
Mm-hmm.
because of Dad. And
Mm-hmm.
I told my sons the same thing, and
Mm-hmm.
they have not gotten in trouble with the law. Because I'm serious. If something goes down and you get in trouble with the law after everything that I've taught you, I'm not coming to get you. You got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I mentioned them. The power of a dad in the home. It's amazing. It's a difference
Mm-hmm.
maker. It's a life
Mm-hmm.
changer.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes.
So I just wanted to share that.
No, I think, yeah, that's a powerful story. I mean, it just really makes a difference what we say to them. I mean, a lot of times we don't think that, we don't think that they're listening, and then, we'll either overhear them repeating it to their friend, or, telling a story to their friends, or, they'll just tell us, that I remember you said that. I mean, I can think of a few times like that when my sons were younger. It's like, Mom, remember you said, and I'm like, oh, okay.
They remember it. You didn't think they were listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So it definitely makes a difference to put that time in. So now anything. I know you have the event coming up. You told them. I'm also going to drop the picture in the chat later for anybody that wants to come back and catch this on replay, so that they will look into your event. I mean, specifically men. But anything else that you want the audience to know? You want them to know anything about any other programs or products you have going?
Well, the main thing I would like to leave with is just letting people know that I am a resource. Anything at all that I can do to help an individual, a team, or an organization as it relates to any type of leadership development, developing people to be good leaders, or executive coaching. I am a resource. That's what I do. I love working with organizations. Anything I can do to help, just feel free to reach out. We're at the www.thejohnsonleadershipgroup.com is the website, and more than happy to be a part of the team and jump in there and help, whether it's assessments, or a lunch and learn, or a mastermind, or a full-blown workshop. It's all kind of embedded into what vision boarding is all about, but much more structured and much more intentional, based upon your desired outcome. So if that's you, just let me know, and I'll be more than happy to have a conversation.
Sounds good. And thank you again for joining. As I had explained to you, that last month was the month of moms. So I had moms on every Thursday night. So this month I've got the dads on, because I just think it's important to hear from mom and dad, and in various operating in different arenas, but can also speak about how they're showing up in their family. So thank you again.
Yay, dads.
And thank you all to all of you who are watching live and who will come back on the replay. And with that, I will ask you all to have a great evening.